get going, everybody. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Arcuri?
Here.
Mr. Bova?
Here.
Mr. Brasky?
Here.
Mr. Ford?
Here.
Mr. Coyne? Mr. D'Elia?
Here.
Mr. Ford? Mr. Lewis? Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Matolo?
Here.
Ms. Chesney? Here. And Mr. Wallace?
Yes. Thank you. You have the May 20, 2019 draft minutes in your pack. Is there a motion to approve? Second? Thank you. Is there, any corrections, deletions, additions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. And now we will have the presentation by the auditors. Pat, would you like to make the introduction?
Jay, you want to introduce Paul? Sure. Guys, this is Paul Getz. He's the partner with BST out of Albany, New York. He performed our audit this past year. He has the audit report, and I think I had passed out the report a couple meetings ago to some. We have limited numbers of reports.
The report is on the website.
Report is on the
We've
website.
got all the information there. If you want a paper copy, we have a couple here that we can give you, or we can get you a couple of paper copies, but the report is entirely on the website.
And there's additional opinions for different types of, besides the audit report, there's management letter and auditor's communication. I have a few copies, I can pass them around. As he talks about them, he's going to take, what, 15, 20?
If I go 15, I'm going to get hooked, I hear. Is this okay to go here?
You
Mr.
were
Chairman,
right.
is this good?
That's great.
That's good, right there. But everybody does have an agenda, right? Can
I
we
didn't
pass the
pass out,
agenda
I
around?
didn't get that far, but here's the
Okay.
agenda.
There's an
Pass it around.
agenda.
Stop killing trees. Yeah, just got here. Just got here.
You got the other side?
No, I already have one from
Jay,
you. Just handed Betty like four.
I said to pass them around.
I was going to take half and put them on that side.
There's a small pile. Oh, maybe not.
Thank you. Me took care of that.
As part of my agenda, Jim, thanks for the introduction. Jim said I conducted the audit, our firm conducted the audit. I am the audit partner on the engagement. I have final, I guess, responsibility for the conduct of the audit. We started our audit January, February of last year, did the bulk of our field work in February and March, issued our opinion on the statements before the filing deadline for the public authorities, March 31st. So the financial statement is on the website. It's also filed with the ABO, so you're in compliance with the ABO. Part of our responsibilities as well is to communicate with the audit committee. We had our audit committee meeting at 4 o'clock today, sat with the chairman of the audit committee and went over the full results of our audit. It's on your website as well as a letter from us to the audit committee that describes our responsibilities and required communications with respect to the audit. This is required by all accounting or auditing firms, the specific communications that are required. A couple things to highlight in 2018. One, there were two new accounting standards that were adopted by the authority in 2018. The first one's being GASB 75. GASB 75 requires all governmental organizations to account for and report for other post-employment benefits on a consistent basis. In the past, governmental organizations were allowed to select how they were going to account for post-employment benefits, but GASB 75 said we're going to put you all on the same reporting requirements. So that had a pretty significant impact on the statements. There was some $6 million worth of other post-employment benefits that are now laid into your statement. So that's a liability of the authority. It used to be accounted for over a 30-year period that is now laid into your statements. And what that represents is the obligations we have to both current employees and retired employees for funding of future health care costs.
How were we showing it in the past?
In the past, that liability, the accounting for it was you were allowed to bring it in over a 30-year period of time. GASB 75 said enough with a 30-year period. Eventually, you would have got to that over a 30-year period. GASB said get it in now.
We were eventually just like pay as you go. Whatever we
Well-
paid for health insurance, we would record as an expense.
That's how you were, right. And you were also bringing in a portion of that
Yeah.
accumulated liability over time, over that 30-year period.
But this isn't health insurance, this is retirement plan, right?
Retiree
Which is retirees' health.
But it's not the pension, that's
Okay.
separate, it's not the pension.
Other than pension.
On a more minor note, there was another accounting pronouncement that was implemented. Are you okay? Okay. I didn't know if there was another question. It's minor, GASB 89. GASB 89 said that prior accounting said that they capitalized interest during a construction period on a project. And we're very project related, so we were capitalizing interest costs inside of each project. GASB 89 said no more of that. Any interest costs incurred need to be expensed as incurred. We implemented that, GASB, early implemented it, so that now there's no more interest capitalized into project costs or project costs. An important thing for the board is that we proposed no audit adjustments as the result of our audit, but we did have some items that we call past adjustments that we saw that did not meet the materiality level that required adjustment. We discussed those with Jim, with Pat, but also with the audit committee. There's one thing that we do that is year over year, and that with respect to the fourth quarter billings are recorded in the period that are billed. So the December usage gets billed to customers in the subsequent period. Really, that's revenue of the authority in the year it was used. But that's been the way we've accounted for that since I guess forever. So that there's an adjustment for that we would say, that's really 2018 revenue. That was the most material of the past adjustments.
So do we have to reinstate anything on the statements?
No, because you got the same thing in 2017 as well. So when we look at your income statement for 18, you got a little thing that's coming in through in 17, and you also missed the end of 18, that's going to come in
So you
19.
back out prior 3 months.
And current.
You always have a little bit disadvantage just because of the way you built.
But if we were to go out of business, there'd be trailing revenue. Really, that should have been back in 18 in each period. So that was the conduct of the audit.
Did any of those adjustments that you said we had made, did they affect us any way financially or?
No. We felt that all of those adjustments were immaterial, so that we didn't have to book those. We talked about them with management, said, do you want to record these? They said no. And that's so it passes our materiality test. The financial statements themselves, that's this big 68-page document. This 68-page document might be more a couple things with that is that, one, this is management's financial statements. You engage us to issue 2 opinions. The first opinion is on the second page in there. And we issued an unqualified or unmodified opinion on the financial statements of the authority for 2018 and 2017. We do have an emphasis matter paragraph on the adoption of GASB 75, as we talked about before, and that's to point out to the reader that there's something important embodied in these statements that we call attention to. The other opinion that we render is on internal controls over financial reporting. That's the last 2 pages of the document. And again, we have an unmodified opinion on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance. When we look at internal controls over financial reporting, we did find one issue that we reported to management, and that's over the reconciliation of certain cash accounts. We felt that the reconciliation process should have been on a more timely basis. We evaluated that, what we call a deficiency in internal control, and classified that as not either a material weakness or a significant deficiency, but an other matter that the board and management should consider our finding and our recommendation of that. That's also been issued as well.
As far as the reconciliation goes, how often are we doing it, and what are you recommending?
We recommended that it should be done on a monthly basis within a certain time frame. It may be unrealistic, but that's what we recommended. The reconciliation process for a certain batch of cash accounts was not done. We got that late in the audit process, and it's something we also talked about with Pat and Jim, and also with the board. But it's easy for us, I guess, to judge as auditors, but we feel it should be more time.
And Jim's taking
Were they
steps.
far off?
No, it's just 98, 99% of everything received was properly accounted. There's small discrepancies that need to be reconciled. Jim is working pretty closely with his staff on how to tighten that up and make it more timely.
The recommendation from the auditor is to reconcile within 10 days. The staff is trying to meet that, but at times it could even be more. It could be closer to the end of the next month, 30 days. A large part of the issue is cancel, like bounce checks, which may not be recorded before the end of the month or even within the first day or two, and creates an issue of getting that reconciled in time of that 10 days. The dollar amount hasn't been significant, so the staff is working on it, but there's a lot of other things going on. We'll be talking about. I'm not sure if 10 days is unreasonable. It may or may not be, but 30 days would be unreasonable. So we need to look at how to best do it. The auditor has appropriately called it out. We've gone through issues of internal control of cash, so we don't want an issue like that. We are working with other people's money. It's not just the money paid by our customers. We're also responsible for sewer. And so, they would be as concerned, they might be concerned that why is it taking you this much time when you should be reconciled this much time? So, I don't know. It's definitely something we'll talk about, and the audit committee will deal with it.
It's also something that, when we come back and do the 19 audit, that it will be the focus of ours as well. And if we find that it's not been improved upon,
What's else?
it may jump to a higher level of reporting on our part. The last thing that you've engaged us to do is to issue a report on compliance with your investment policies required by the ABO. That's a one-page report, and we issue an unmodified opinion on your compliance with investments as required by the public authorities. When we met with the audit committee, gave them an opportunity to ask us any questions. I'll give the board the same opportunity if you'd like to ask us something about the statements themselves or the conduct of the audit.
As Jim said, all of this is on the website, but if you want a hard copy, not a problem. Again, there's a lot of it.
So we satisfied with those?
Oh, I am at this point. I think I'm very satisfied.
Basically, tell you the manager reported
Yeah.
opinion on it if we had any issues. But I think the reconcile is one that we really need to address.
Yeah, definitely.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you very much. And you did great on time, too. Committee reports, Dick did send out a capital projects update today. If you didn't check your email, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just a significant amount of capital project activity right now, so I put a one-page summary together. Projects in design, bidding, and some smaller ones that we have already in construction. Significant projects that will be coming before the board in July would be the Snowden Hill Tank project, which we're bidding in early July, and also the rehab of the Hanger Road concrete tank, which we're bidding at the end of this month. So those will be the first two that the board will see for award contracts. But a little look ahead at what's coming down in August and September as well. So take a look. Any questions, get a hold of me. I'll let you answer.
Thanks, Dick. Jim, anything on finance?
I believe your May 31st statement is in the
Yes.
binder.
It's in here.
Okay. Consumption is down a little, about 4% below last year. So we're looking at that. Hopefully it's going to jump back up. Budget to actual, pretty much on board. We're a little above budget to actual with water sales. And cash flow, we kind of steadied this past month. We're, as you recall before, we went behind a little bit on cash. We had some large payouts at the beginning of the year. We're hopefully going to catch up in the next several months. This past month, we kind of stayed the same, but hopefully in the next couple months, we'll recover some of that.
Any questions for Jim? Do you have anything, Rob? Bruce? Thank you. Pat?
I don't have a whole lot, I'll just hit the highlights. The project for potentially going east is still moving along pretty quickly. We've been getting reports from various communities that the level of interest is growing, particularly with some of the village systems that already have their own water systems. They're at least coming to the table and taking a look at it. Tomorrow night, we have a meeting down at Herkimer High School, right? At 6 o'clock, so Phil and I will be there. Dick, I think you're going to be there too. So we'll see what their interest is on it. We are attempting to commence a radio propagation study to do meter reading in that area, so that if this all starts to happen, we'll have a little bit of a leg up on being able to get the right kind of meters in place down there over the next 2 to 3 years to be able to do automated reading and stuff like that. So we're starting some of the early steps to investigate, to put all the pieces in place for this. So far, so good. Everybody at the state's been extremely helpful so far, and I think all the local officials are being very earnest and thoughtful about the process that they're all going through. Last thing I'll mention is that if you're familiar with the consolidated funding application process, this is how the state is now giving out grant funds. It's all through one master application process. That deadline comes up in July again. The last time around, we did receive $2.3 million awarded to us from the state of New York. That is going into phase 1 of our raw water line replacement from the treatment plant back to the dam, and it'll cover the cost of the new pipe bridge and some of the connection points and stuff like that. The application for the next round we're working on right now. We're being assisted by O'Brien and Gear engineers who did the last application for us, and this time around we'll be asking for between 8 and 9 million for the next phase. So keep your fingers crossed. We'll put that in ahead of the deadline, and then hopefully we'll continue that project with some more state money. It's an important job. It would support things like the Nano Center. It definitely ties into job creation and industrial development and expansion. So we're going to obviously play that up in the application process and see how well we can do it. Other than that, everything else is moving along, I think, pretty well. And if there's any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
You're not going to consider a master meeting, and just let them take care of it?
That's one possibility. In fact, we'll probably start out that way first.
Okay, 'cause you mentioned separate meters, so I was wondering.
But yeah, I mean, some communities I think would probably want to just eventually turn everything over to us. It would just take a little bit of time. They would be responsible for maintaining their own distribution system for a little period of time until certain repairs are made and the system's acceptable to, sort of our level of expectation. But eventually, I think those that do come on board are probably going to want to just join the system full-fledged and kind of, get out of the business of having to maintain their own piping. But early on, there'll probably be a bulk sale type situation. Those are all things that we'll have to figure out as we navigate this over the next 8 to 9 or 10 months. But Ilion is in the process of applying for all kinds of funds. The Herkimer County IDA has been instrumental down there to try to secure some funding for them as well. So some of it, frankly, Denny's going to come down to how much money they can get and how fast they can do a lot of their repair work on their system.
Who's doing the investigation on their systems to see if they meet our standards?
Barton Lejudas Engineers is overseeing the whole process with Ilion of solving their water problem. Whether it was upgrading their own system and staying in business alone or connecting to us as the option, they have done a complete evaluation of that system. Dick has a report on it. Dick and his staff are looking at the punch list of things that they need to do to make it considered acceptable to our standards. Things like undersized mains, dead-end mains, a whole range of things like got metering is on that list already. Their meter population is already aged and has been identified as one of the cost components to assist in renewal type of project. But Dick is working very closely with Barton and Judas engineers to work those, iron out those details. Anything else? If not, I'm
Thanks, Pat.
set for now.
Any old business?
Herkimer jumps on, they're gonna be, was it Herkimer and Mohawk? Are they gonna be together, is it gonna be Herkimer its own, Mohawk doing their own thing?
That's a good question.
Mohawk home with Ilion, I
There's no
mean,
answer for that just yet. Those are all things that have to get discussed by the individual municipalities and,
I hadn't heard.
Right now, Herkimer's doing a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
There are areas
I
that-
know where Mohawk was laying in all this.
yeah, right now, they're not really part of that
It'd be
discussion.
nice to make a clean sweep through the valley.
Well, yeah, right now, I think Mohawk is staying on the sidelines. They're okay with their situation right now. Town of Herkimer, there's areas that are served by Ilion, there's areas that are served by Mohawk, and there's areas that I think are currently not served by anybody, and they'd like to form some districts. They also have areas that are currently served by the village of Herkimer, which is an independent system. So one thing we know right now is that if the village of Herkimer stays independent, those customers currently served by them would stay with them. So there's a number of combinations. It all depends on what each municipality decides to do.
Anything else? Any old business? Any new business? No more meetings on beautiful nights like tonight.
All right, and then,
I need an executive session for approval, review of a shared services agreement for use of our software. Second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.